Welcome to the Rebound with Coach Matt Doherty.
Welcome to the Rebound. I'm Matt Doherty, and today's conversation is going to hit home for every leader who has ever felt stuck, frustrated, or overwhelmed. My guest is Brandon Blell, a certified EOS implementer who helps leadership teams get clear on where they're going, disciplined about how they're going to get there, and healthier in how they work together. Brandon grew up in a family business, so she understands the pressures leaders face, the long hours, tough decisions, and weight of carrying it all on your shoulders. She's combined that real-world experience with powerful tools from the Entrepreneurial Operating System to help companies simplify, scale, and succeed. Today, we'll talk about the habits that make leaders more effective, the structures that create accountability, and the culture shifts that transforms teams. If you've been looking for clarity, traction, and a healthier way to lead, you're in the right place. I talk a lot about the organizational triangle of talent, systems, and culture. Today, we will focus on systems, and there's none better than EOS. Let's jump in. All right, Brandon, growing up in a family business, what were some of your earliest leadership lessons?
So most of my early leadership lessons really came from my dad. He was a football player. He was a quarterback. So from as early as I can remember, he was always just instilling us with leadership. Like it was just in the water. So it was hard to say this was a lesson and this wasn't, because I was just around it all the time. You know, I can remember
where did your dad play football?
Yeah, he played at Duke. He played at yeah.
I knew this was going to come up sooner or later. We got a full exposure here. Brandon is a Duke graduate, and now her dad played quarterback at Duke. Probably at Wallace Wade Stadium, I'm assuming.
Yes. He liked to say he played at Myers Park High School in Charlotte. A lot of listeners here. And then he was recruited into Duke, and he liked to say that he practiced there. So he played for a couple of years, and then as he was flunking out, he he redshirted and decided to finish out his college career, and that maybe pro football was not going to be it for him. But
now, did he start the business or did he go into the family business?
Yeah. So my great-grandfather, and there were family businesses on all sides, but my great-grandfather founded a furniture store in Charlotte, and his two sons went into the business. And so that was the expectation, that my dad would just go into the business as well. So he came back after college and went to work with them, and he hated it. He did not love feeling like he had to that was his full path in life, and he made the best of it. But he wound up leaving there and going and working in the industry for a while as furniture business, and then ultimately made his huge entrepreneurial leap when I was a freshman in college. And he started a manufacturing company and built that business through there. And that's the family business I ultimately wound up joining. So, yeah.
Was that in Charlotte as well?
Hickory. Yeah. Hickory. Claremont.
Claremont. Yeah. Why Hickory?
Because that's the heart of furniture manufacturing. If you're going to be in that business, that's where you need to be. Yeah. So we moved there as kids and grew up there, and that was the place to be.
What was the relationship after your dad left your grandfather's business? What was the relationship between your dad and his father?
Oh, it was good. It was always good. Yeah, his father and brother ultimately wound up selling that business, but it was always your family first. Yep. We want the best for you, and so that was good.
Well, you and we'll we could dive into it. You, in your job as a consultant, EOS implementer, you see a lot of family businesses, and a lot of things can go sideways in a family business. What inspired you to move from working in your dad's business to helping others in your role, your current role as an EOS implementer?
Well, let me give you kind of the whole arc of my career in a
Sure,
minute or so. But
sure.
so of course I followed him to Duke. I went off and did all the.
Oh, you don't have to repeat that part. We got that. That's loud and clear. I see the color. I see the color shirt you're wearing.
That is that.
So
Oh, yeah, that's kind of turquoise. But
okay,
anyway,
all right.
yeah. So I went off and worked in a couple of large publicly traded companies. And the truth is, part of the reason for that was my father kind of always pushed me away. He was like, go do something else, go see the world, go. He always said, go work in big fancy towers. And so I did all that stuff, but I just all worked for some really amazing leaders in that path and some really, really cool entrepreneurial companies. But I had a calling. I knew somewhere in my heart that I had to get back to my roots. I wanted to look my customers in the eye. I knew I would regret it if I didn't come back and work with him in the business that he had started. Somehow I just knew he needed my help. And so that's how I got into the business with him. Left a great job in the software industry and came back to Hickory, and that was quite a transition.
Where were you living? Where were you living at the time before you came back to Hickory?
I was in Raleigh. Yeah,
Raleigh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was in Raleigh. Yeah, worked in a beautiful downtown high-rise building and just loved it. I really did. I got some great lessons there, and then came back and things were harder than I expected. Like I knew I was going to have some culture shock coming from such a well-oiled machine and very well resourced, and everybody around me just just a very different kind of world. And then to come and work in a small privately held bootstrapped company, it was different and it was hard. And I quickly discovered that, well, I'm looking around and I'm going, this doesn't feel healthy. Yeah, there was a lot of what felt toxic in the office. I didn't like that. It was fun. We had a big time. It was chaotic sometimes, and there was some fun in that. But
tell me, I'm going to interrupt you. Toxic.
Yeah.
What did that look like when you say it's toxic? Define that.
Yeah. Doors closed. Let me come in here and close the door, and then it'd be a gossip session. A lot of that. A lot of just in the office. Cover yourself kind of mentality. And I don't think my dad could really see all of that until it was too late in some cases, or maybe he could.
OMJ Clothing is an elite men's clothing store that provides a vast array of spectacular brands of men's lifestyle apparel for every day. Elevate your business upscale casual at OMJ. Success comes from standing out. One of the things I talk about often, and I wrote a book called Rebound. It's over that shoulder. I talk about the 6 no's of leadership, STEVIT, STEVIT, and coaches love to make up acronyms, as you know, EOS, and so the second T is truth, and good leaders mine for the truth. And how do you mine for the truth? Because the leaders are often the last ones to know. And so how can we be the first ones to know? The tsunami's coming. We want to get an early warning so we can move away from the shore. And quite often people are afraid to tell the leader the truth. And then they get crushed by the wave. So you come in, your dad has been running that company for how long? And then what is your role when you enter into that company?
So he has founded the company in 92. So it was 2014. So he had been running it for, 22 years. But he founded the company with a partner. And that partner, when he founded it, my father was kind of the outside guy. He was the face of the company. He had all the customer relationships, and his partner was the inside guy. And EOS speak, they were the classic visionary and integrator before those terms were terms. And when his partner retired inconveniently right before the bottom fell out in the Great Recession, I think he had so much experience in the industry, he thought he'd be able to just fill the void with some experienced manufacturing people, and everything would be just fine. And that wasn't the case at all. So so it had been since 2008. So he was kind of doing it on his own since 2008, and I came in about 2014. And the truth was, you asked about my role. The sum total of my role was, Brandon, just come on in here and follow me around for a little while. And in a couple of years from now, I'll just skedaddle on out of here and you can take it over.
So just things that jump into my head and maybe the audience's head is, okay, a couple things. You're daddy's girl.
Yeah.
You jump in at 2014. I'm working in the company and I'm like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
Right? What does this mean for me? How did you navigate entry into what was the name of the company?
Stanford Furniture was the name of the company.
Stanford Furniture.
Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate that change and entering into Stanford Furniture, and what mistakes maybe were made in that process?
It's a great question. I like to think that I was very aware of it, but I certainly appreciated that I was coming in from the outside. I kind of felt like an alien. I really did my best to build trust. But there were two key folks there. My father's wife was in the business, and she was one of the top salespeople. And then there was another woman who had been around since basically the beginning, and I understood this was threatening with me coming in from outside. And I tried to know what I didn't know, or I tried to learn, and I tried to ask a lot of questions.
Right.
But it was also frustrating because sometimes that defensiveness made it feel to me like, I had a lot to bring as well, but it just, it was hard to get through. It's hard to get through. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. Bringing in
some
different ideas. And
All right. So outsider, Miss Blell, daddy's girl comes in, and you saw a bunch of toxicity there, right? You saw it, and it showed its head in the closing of doors, gossip, backbiting. Take us from there.
Yeah. So, I'm looking around, and, it just doesn't, I know what healthy feels like, because I had been in some really healthy environments, and this wasn't it. And, so it was very frustrating. And my dad was frustrating because he could see it, and he could see it. We were starting to miss shipments, and operations were suffering. And, some clients that had been with us for 20 plus years were just not getting the answers they needed. So things were falling apart, and it was no one person's fault. It was that things had just started to fray. And so I was frustrated. My dad was frustrated. And then one day I got a call, coincidentally, from a Vistage coach who had never heard of this Vistage thing before.
Well, tell the audience, I am a Vistage chair. Vistage is one of the oldest executive coaching organizations in the country, peer advisory, and really helps leaders find the truth, find good, honest, input, feedback, and help leaders make better decisions that lead to better results. So that's what Vistage is. So I just wanted to explain the reference there, Brandon. So
Thank you.
go ahead.
Yeah, and so I had a great conversation, and he said, you really ought to pick up this book called Traction and read it, and then let's talk. And I read the book, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is everything that I know from all of my experience in these very well-run, healthy companies, but packaged for a small business or a privately held company like ours.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, we have to do this. I remember reading the book over a vacation and dog-earing the pages, and I came back, and so it was everything. So I hired.
Let me interrupt for the sake of the audience that does not know what EOS is. Please, in 30 seconds or less, explain to the audience what EOS is.
Yeah, so EOS is, I like to call it a system for organizing the human energy in your company. It helps you get better at three things: vision, traction, and healthy, right? Vision, just getting everybody on your leadership team really aligned around where you're going and how you're going to get there. Traction, meaning executing on that vision with discipline and accountability. And healthy, right? We've been talking about healthy, but healthy meaning moving forward as a healthy, great place to work. So it just really resonated with me for us. But that's what EOS is, right? A system for organizing human energy. And we do it by strengthening 6 components in your business that we can talk about some of those as we go forward.
Yep. I talk about, I mentioned earlier, the organizational triangle, and coaches like to draw up diagrams. So that's my organizational triangle with talent at the top, systems at the bottom, culture at the bottom. And the better your systems and culture, the better talent you attract, retain. And at the end of the day, I think culture is king, but if you don't have a good system, that narrows the base, and the talent's going to fall over. And you're kind of mentioning, systems and culture. It's closely aligned. The toxic conversations in the organization very closely aligned to systems. If you have good systems in place, it can eliminate some of the poor behavior that leads to a bad culture. So anyway, you read about EOS, you now get excited. How do you introduce that to your father and the company?
So I knew that I'm reading the book and I'm thinking, well, maybe this is something I should just do for us. But I knew there was no way, again, with me coming in from the outside, or coming in as the daughter and all the things we just talked about, there was no way I could do this on my own. And so I brought in the implementer, and we did a 90-minute meeting. Invited my father and the leadership team, and we went through it, and it was just like, oh yeah, this is what we need. He trusted me. He knew that I had some really good things to bring in, and that if I was bringing this, it made a lot of sense. And he just it just stuck.
Okay, what were some of the immediate tools, EOS tools, that were introduced to Stanford Furniture? And what are some of the low-hanging fruit? Somebody who reads the book Traction, and matter of fact, I just mailed one of them today to a friend who's an entrepreneur in Kansas City. What are some of the first 3 things that someone can read the book and take away and implement into their organization immediately?
So day one, the magic was the accountability chart. Because we had never had a real conversation about roles, about who was accountable for what. And so when we were able to draw that accountability chart up there and say, okay, and we always take a structure first, people second approach. So creating the structure and then, identifying what that looked like and then putting the names in seats allowed us to have some really important and hard conversations that we would have never been able to have otherwise.
Mhm.
And it really unlocked some things. So that was going through that exercise was really, really helpful and powerful on day one. The level 10 meeting, we didn't have meetings. It was, let's go in the door and close the door. But often we wouldn't have the right people there.
Mm-hmm.
So level 10 meeting.
What's a level 10 meeting? What does level 10 mean? What does that stand for?
Yeah, great. So the level 10 meeting, it's a meeting that follows the same, it starts at the same time, same place, same agenda, starts on time, ends on time. And the same agenda is really important as well, because you know what you're looking at. It's called a level 10 meeting because at the end of the meeting, you rate it on a score of 1 to 10. And that rating it at the end holds you as a team accountable for having a great meeting, not letting each other off the hook. So that accountability is really important. But it creates an environment where you're building a little team health into the meeting every week at the beginning, just starting off on a high note.
I'm going to interrupt you. It's my show, so I can interrupt.
You can do it.
But I'm a big fan. I try to operate my little company on EOS. So awesome. The day of this filming, every Monday morning, we have our EOS L10 meeting, and it starts on time and ends on time, if not early. Some people say, like you'll face all kinds of resistance, right? And they'll say, "Oh, I hate meetings. They're too long. I'm full of meetings." And then some people don't want to meet every week. Tell me why it's important to have meetings, and two, why it's important to meet the same day each week.
Yes, I get those questions all the time too. I'm so glad you're running a business on it and it's working for you. And I had the same questions when we started it too. 90 minutes. Oh, that seems like so long. I don't think I can sit in the room with this group for that long.
Right.
But it's important because it creates a routine. It creates a consistent cadence in the business, which becomes the heartbeat, really, the pulse. And so, every week, okay, we're going to bring it to the meeting. We're going to bring it to the meeting. We're going to bring it to the meeting. And we know that that's the opportunity where we can come together and solve all those issues.
Right.
So yeah, having that predictability is really important.
So the meeting, I love the way it's set up because it's kind of like as a basketball coach, a practice plan. You start out with the good news, and it's kind of like warm-ups. We want to get into the flow. You want people to look forward to the meeting, so you have some small talk. I was not good at small talk. I wanted to jump right in, but it forces you to engage people, especially on a Monday. How was your weekend? And then you flow into it. Tell me about the segments of the meeting and why it is broken up the way it is. Yeah. And the other thing is keeping people on track, right? Who is the person that is going to keep people on track? I don't have a problem doing that, but some leaders do. Basically someone's going on a tangent and you got to hit them over the head, right? With a mallet and say, let's get back on track. So talk about how it's the segments of it, why they are the way they are, and what are some of the issues with the meeting and how do you keep it on track?
Yeah. So the way it's segmented, you start with that good news piece. That's small talk, but it's more than small talk, right? There's some psychology there. Everybody should be sharing a piece of good news, personal or professional, and it just makes that mental transition to being ready to come in and have a good meeting. The warm up, if you will. I like that. And then for the next 5 minutes each, you're going to look at your scorecard. Are your numbers on track or off track? Your scorecard is that weekly set of numbers that you're looking at. Your rocks. Your rocks are your quarterly priorities that you set every 90 days. And so you look at those numbers. Are they on track or off track? And then any company headlines, any customer or employee headlines. So you're looking at, are my numbers on track? Are my priorities on track? And are my people and are my customers and employees happy? That should be about 15 minutes tops, because what happens is so often you get trapped in this deep reporting on numbers and sort of justifying your existence and all of those things and those horrible meetings we've all sat in. So it keeps it really tight and focused.
Yeah, I love the scorecard, and because most leaders have a hard time holding people accountable. And one of the things about, to me, EOS is it's a system that holds people accountable because of the scorecard. And you have these numbers. Everyone has a number is one of my favorite quotes. Obviously, people can have more than one number. Many of the numbers should be leading indicators versus lagging indicators. Give me an example of a leading indicator versus a lagging indicator and why that's important to track.
So on the scorecard, you're looking at weekly numbers, right? Rather than getting to the end of the quarter and going, I don't know what happened. Right. You might look at a revenue number on your scorecard on a weekly basis, but how cool is it when you can look at, say you're in a sales seat, how many times did I pick up the phone and call this week? Right. Because that leading indicator is what's going to drive the revenue. That's the thing that I can control.
That's right.
So that's a good example of that.
That's right. We talk about why 90-day rocks versus 180-day rocks. Why are they 90? What's the psychology behind that?
Boy, when I heard that for the first time, it just hit me. And I became, you coming from the college world of basketball, and that felt it a lot too. I mean, it's a semester, it's a season. 90 days. When it's longer than that, it doesn't matter how good you are as a team, you just start to fray. And so there's something that's a little bit magical about that 90-day point where you just got to come back together and you got to reset those priorities and breathe and learn from what happened over the last quarter and look ahead and figure out what's next.
Mm-hmm. Another tool that I like all of it, but the people analyzer. I remember people complain and they talk about their people, and I had a Vistage member, just ran them through that exercise. Just here, let's put your team through the people analyzer. About 20 people, and he fired 2 people the next day.
Yeah.
Because now it spelled it out for him. Explain to the group, what is the people analyzer?
So when we talk about EOS, we talk about 6 components. So let me just kind of couch it and sort of where it fits into the system. And then we got to go back and I got to finish off the level 10 meeting.
Yes, I'm sorry. I jumped away.
I like it. Yeah, it's all good. But so we talk about strengthening 6 components of your business: the vision component, the people component, the data component, the issues component, process, and then the traction component. And so people is such a foundational part of things. 80% of your issues are often somewhere in that people component. And so we talk about, how do we make sure we've got the right people in the right seats? Mm-hmm. And right people are people who are a great fit in your organization, right? They share the behaviors, the core values that you've created as an organization. Right seats are people that are great at their job, and you've got to have both. So the people analyzer is a really great tool, and it's more of a conversation tool than a review tool, although you could use it for that. But it helps you see in black and white, do my people share my core values?
Right.
And do they want, and have the capacity to do their job well?
Right.
So rather
my core values are respect, trust, commitment, positivity. Okay,
Love it.
so 4,
Yep.
RTCP. So how would you evaluate Joe
hmm
in my organization through the people analyzer in my company?
Yeah. So it's simple, black and white. You put those 4 core values sort of at imagine a spreadsheet, right? Put the core values at the top and well, so let's play along. How are we feeling about Joe? Is Joe a slam dunk good fit, or is he?
Joe's okay. Joe's okay. I'd like for him to generate more revenue. He's in a bit business development.
Okay.
Just not seeing the results that I'd like to see. But it seems like at the end of the quarter, he kind of meets a number. But
Okay.
I'm just not thinking we're getting to the next level.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. So starting with that those core values. So plus or minus. So plus most of the time he exhibits that core value. Minus most of the time he doesn't. And plus minus sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't.
Okay.
And I'm jotting this down right so we can do it together.
Yep. Respect, trust, commitment, positivity. So,
Yep.
Joe, for the most part, respectful. He shows up on time.
Okay.
He turns his reports in on time. Trust. Do I trust? I probably don't fully trust that he is busting it.
Okay.
So I question his commitment.
Okay.
Is he committed? The thing where I'd say is a negative is the positivity, the respect, trust, commitment, positivity, because I'm big on energy and bringing in energy to the field, the court,
Yeah.
passion. And I just don't see that in
Okay.
him, that fire in him.
Okay. So on respect, you said he was respectful. So plus most of the time, yes. Trust, you said maybe sometimes yes, sometimes no. So
Yeah,
plus
just
minus.
don't know if he's getting it done,
Yeah.
and that bleeds into commitment, plus
Okay.
minus on a commitment.
Okay. And then positivity is a minus. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we would set a bar. You would have a bar for those 4 core values, and usually,
I go to the bar a lot of times
yeah.
because Joe's causing me some heartache. So I go to the bar. That's the only bar I know about. But anyway, go ahead. I'm kidding.
Well, sometimes you got to do that too.
Joe drives me to the bar, not literally. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, think about like the limbo bar in this case.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
So if you've got 4 core values, probably you're going to set your bar at maybe 3 pluses and 1 plus minus, or sometimes
Gotcha.
2 pluses and 2 plus minuses. And so what you've got here is he's below the bar, right, in the combination, because you've got 1 plus, a plus minus, 2 plus minuses, and a minus, and you never want to have a minus. So what this allows you to do there from a core values perspective is really start to push into, okay, why is it a plus minus in trust? What does it have? Well, first of all, you ask yourself as a leader, have I been clear to him what my expectations are around trust?
Right.
Around what that core value means to us. So then you can have that conversation with him of, okay, here's where I think you're falling short. Ideally, you've got 3 opportunities to share that with him. Here's where I think here's where you're doing great. Here's where I think you could do better. And same with the other 2. So it becomes a coaching tool for you to have a more specific conversation with Joe about where he's not meeting the bar, instead of there's just something about Joe that bugs me. Gives you something tangible, allows you to think a little deeper. So that's that cultural part, or the core values. The right person, is he a right person for your organization? So maybe you can coach him up, maybe not. If you can't, then you have a right person issue. The other side of that, once you've got that, is the GWC gets it, wants it, has the capacity to do the roles in the seat that that you've designed, right?
Right.
So gets it is that DNA. Does he truly, with all the neurons firing in his body, get what he needs to do in that business development role?
Yeah.
Does he
Yeah, I think
want
he
it?
does. I think he understands the business.
Yeah.
He gets
Okay.
it. He's been in it a long time.
Yeah.
So
Good.
yes, I
Okay.
would say he gets it.
So he gets it. Then does he want it? Right? You can't make somebody want it. You can't you can't really coach somebody to want it. They just got to genuinely want it.
Right.
So
What does want it show up? What does that look like to you in all the companies that you have worked with? The want it piece. I
yeah.
think I know. You show up early, you stay late, you meet deadlines.
Mm,
In basketball, you dive on loose balls, you draw
yeah.
charges, you help a teammate, you run the floor hard. You
Yeah.
bring energy, and you just you show up and play all out.
Yeah. And I think it depends on the role. But it's more subjective. It's more internal. It's not something you can make somebody do. They have to spring out of the bed wanting to do that job.
Right.
And so if you're seeing a lot of dragging, a lot of maybe procrastination, those kinds of things, maybe there's a wanted issue. If,
Mhm.
if you've sold them into something because you needed to fill a seat
Right. Right.
and they never really wanted it, there might be an issue there. And so, that's often a question that the person in the seat asks themselves, but you have to be able to spot it as the manager and leader
Yep.
there.
Gotcha.
And then capacity is more does Joe want that? Do you think he wants it? Do you see that fire in him wanting
I
to?
don't see the fire in him any,
Yeah.
no, not anymore.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So maybe not. So you've got a yes, no, and then capacity are the skills, right? The skills, the acquired skills could be the experience, could be the training, could be the emotional capacity to do the job, could be the physical capacity to do the
Yep.
job, those kinds of things.
It
And
could also
those,
be it also could be the time capacity, right? Some people have other obligations. I mean, family, right?
yeah.
You might have to take care of children, a parent. You might have a long commute. You might not be able to work on weekends. So there's a time capacity as well, isn't there?
There is, and I like the way you framed it from that perspective, because I like to think about not I'm so overload, because a lot of times what happens is people are sitting in multiple seats, especially when they start this program. It's you're a small, fast running business, and maybe you're overloaded and haven't been able to delegate well. But when we talk about the capacity here, it's exactly that. This is a 50-hour-a-week job, and I'm only willing to work 30 because I
Right.
want to be part-time.
Right.
That's the way I think about it. Pacing might come into it as well. But yeah, so there's definitely that. I
Mhm.
take out the I'm overwhelmed and can't do it, because sometimes there's a different issue there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got Joe. We've got we've got a questionable about right person.
Right.
Hopefully we can coach him up, but maybe not. And then we really need to have. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer the question. Is capacity? Is he a yes or a no on that?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has the capacity. Yes, he's done it before.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Great. So he's likely a right person, in the right seat, except for that want it, right? So you can
Right.
have that conversation. Hey, do you really want it? I'm not seeing the spark.
How often should you use the people analyzer?
So, quarterly is a great rule of thumb. I want you to I want my leaders to be having that quarterly conversation with every one of
Mhm.
their direct reports, right? Building that rapport. And the people analyzer is a great opportunity for for the manager and the managee, right? To
Mhm.
to do this and then have that great conversation. Again, you can see the differences. Oh, I'm rating myself a minus, and you're rating me a plus. What does that
Right.
mean?
Right.
So ideally quarterly, or as often, or when you have that issue, right, where you're just not sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's a good tool, and it forces crucial conversations,
Yes.
which is what many, many leaders, most of the people I work with, they struggle with that, having a crucial conversation. And if you create a culture of having crucial conversations and using a tool like the People Analyzer, and I recommend, letting people know you do that when you're interviewing them, so they know they're going to be held to a standard. And
Yeah.
some people avoid it. They're afraid of it. Great, I don't want you on my team.
Yeah.
And some people will embrace it. Nick Saban talks about A players wanting to play with A players, and A players don't want to play with C players, and C players don't want to play with A players because they get exposed.
Yeah.
And so A players don't want to have to carry the load for the C players. So if everyone's being measured to the same standard, I know high performers want that. They want that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's setting the expectations right up front. It's so important because you can keep coming back to it. So
Yeah.
often, those expectations are not set clearly, and people, I don't know what my job is. And then you've got a mismatch, and trust starts to erode. And so, yeah.
And
Right up
people
front.
want feedback.
Yes.
People want feedback. People want feedback. They're like, if they get fired or get disciplined and they were never told, it wasn't clear what they were doing wrong, they want feedback. And then they also want feedback that they're doing something right. So
Yeah.
feedback is so important. And I think sometimes leaders get so busy that they kick that can down the road. And it's like us Catholics, we don't go to confession for a month, and then 2 months, and 3 months, and 4 months, and 6 months, then a year. And you're like, I'm not going to get down on my knees in front of a priest and say it's been a year and a half since my last confession. So you've got to do it. You've got to hold yourself accountable as a leader. Now, I interrupted you as you were kind of going through the L10 meeting,
Right.
and I think we stopped at maybe the to-dos and didn't get to the IDS. Explain what IDS stands for and how long that is in a meeting, and why is that's important.
Yeah. So IDS stands for identify, discuss, and solve. And it's just a great way to really be able to get to the root of an issue. So often as leaders, we'll throw an issue up on the board, or we'll lock ourselves in a room to try to tackle an issue. And we talk a lot, right? We talk and talk and talk and talk, but rarely do you actually get to the real root of the issue, and rarely move it forward. So IDS is just a really great tool to be able to help you get laser focused on the issue that you're trying to solve, and dig under it.
How do you prepare for an L10? Like, okay, there's issues. We got issues.
Yeah.
Everybody has issues. So how do you put it onto the agenda? Who manages the agenda? And then I think this is important, is ranking the issues so that you are tackling, and I know this is a big part of EOS, you are tackling the most important issue first.
Right.
You may not get to all the issues in that 60 minutes,
Right.
but you rather get one important issue done than 5 unimportant issues completed, right?
Yes. Now, sometimes it's a little bit more art than science. And as a team evolves and getting better and better at predicting which are the right issues to solve, you become better as a team. But yeah, the idea is you're creating that issues list through the week. Come to the meeting prepared with issues. More issues are better than less, because we want to create the culture where people do feel comfortable bringing issues and not hiding them. And so then, yeah, you look at the issues list as a team and you quickly prioritize them. What are the 1, 2, 3 most important issues? And you tackle those 3. You don't worry about prioritizing the whole list. Don't spend a ton of time on that. You want to just prioritize it quickly and then start really knocking those issues down.
And then what's next once you solve an issue?
So once you solve the issue, you take it off your issues list. When you've solved it, you've generally agreed on a course of action. You've made a decision. You created a to-do. You're just moving things forward, making progress. And then you move to the next one on the list. And you do the same thing. You dig to the root and identify it and then discuss it and then solve it.
And going back to accountability, I think a philosophy of EOS is like one issue or one to do, one person, one scorecard number, one person. Like you don't allow 2 people to share an assignment or a number. Is that, am I close on that?
So we like to say that when 2 people are accountable, nobody is accountable. Right. You kind of do this, right? I'm pointing my fingers in different directions for listeners, but yeah. So assigning that one person who is accountable to get the thing done, right? Then it's clear. Yeah. It's clear. So it's creating clarity is so important. And the simplicity of some of these tools is what creates that clarity.
What is the role of vulnerability and trust playing in a performance of a high-performing team?
Vulnerability-based trust. It's the foundation of all of it. One of the things we teach all EOS clients, starting at their first annual, even before, is the whole idea of Patrick Lencioni's trust pyramid, where vulnerability-based trust really underpins everything, right? Because if you've got vulnerability-based trust, then you get good conflict. You get good, productive conflict. If you don't have that trust, people aren't willing to debate the ideas. They're not going to bring it up, and so we want to have that healthy conflict.
Yeah. For those in the audience, I've interviewed Patrick Lencioni on the Rebound. So Brandon is in good company.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, actually, Patrick's in good company now with Brandon being on the show. Yeah, that's got to be modeled by the leader.
Yes.
What does that look like? What does modeling trust and vulnerability look like by the leader of the organization and or department?
That vulnerability, it's the willingness to say, I messed up.
Yeah.
Right. I made a mistake. I need help. Just really being able to show that, hey, I'm human too. Right. And I'm willing to show that.
That's right.
It's so important because that creates the safe space for other people to enter into that vulnerability.
Yeah. Let's go back to family business. I'm sure there are hopefully many people in the audience that are involved in a family business. What is the biggest challenge or one of the biggest challenges you have seen, either experienced yourself being at Stanford Furniture or now as a EOS implementer that you see in a family-run business?
It is so hard to separate the family from the business, from the ownership of the business. I like to kind of separate them into those 3 different areas because they all the emotions get all tangled up, and if you've got a son in the business or a daughter in the business who's not in the right seat, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah.
And still have dinner together that night, right?
Yeah.
Or go on vacation, and and so it can get really tangled up, and so. But talk about vulnerability-based trust. When you can have that, if you're in a family business, and you've got that in your family, then you're so much farther along. But that's hard, and it all gets jumbled up together.
How does EOS help integrate exit planning and succession in a family-run business?
Well, can I get, while we're talking about vulnerability, let me finish out kind of my story. Would that be okay?
Of course.
Yeah.
I welcome that. We love
yeah.
vulnerability on this show. Yes.
So we, I brought EOS into our family business, and this happened right after I mentioned my stepmother. My dad's wife was in the business. She had been in a tragic car accident, and that immediately took my father out of everything. That was the sum total of my transition plan. Was I got to go I got to go, and I got to take care of her. We don't know if she's going to live or die.
Wow.
These things happen in families. I said, "Go, Dad. I got this. This is why I'm here."
And now let me interrupt. You started in 2014. What year was this?
2019.
Okay.
2019. So that happened, and I don't know what I would have done without having a system to lean on during that really tough time, without having the system and the support of so many people that we had relationships with. So that was number one, just as a leader, in this situation where don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know whether he's going to be back. I don't know how this is all going to play out. We don't know what's going to happen to her. To be able to keep the consistency of that, just the consistency of the level 10 meeting once a week,
Right.
And the consistency of so that was really, really important. And after all of that happened, I realized that I was not put on earth to run a furniture factory. I mean, we had talk about GWC. I really reflected on that.
It was a new people analyzer. It was called OMG instead of GWC. Oh my God, what did I got to get into here?
Literally, there was one day where the urinal in the upstairs office blew off the wall. I had. But how did I hear? What in the world? There are no facilities people. I mean, we had some amazing folks that just sprung to action, but I just felt like, this is not my. So it made me realize that my reason for being there was not because I wanted to take this business forward. It was because I wanted to be there with my father, and so we were now able to have that kind of conversation, and I could lean on the tools, and I could say, I don't know what's going to happen 3 years from now. I don't know what the exit strategy is, but what I do know is that we've got to build a strong business, and I can put it on this 2-page piece of paper we call the VTO. Right. We know where we're going long term.
What is the VTO? Here we go with acronyms again.
Sorry.
What does the VTO stand for?
It's a 2-page vision. 2-page business plan that stands for Vision Traction Organizer, and it just helps get the whole leadership team aligned around what are your core values, what's your core focus, where are you going in 10 years, what's your marketing strategy, where are you going in 3 years, and 1 year, and 90 days. And then what are your issues? So we had all that written down, and we had to debate what that looked like. So through all that, we had the opportunity to sell the business. We didn't really actively promote it to sell it, but we had a strategic buyer who coincidentally was also running on EOS. I had the traction book in the office when they came in for the super secret due diligence. And it helped so much because they knew we were a well-run company, or at least certainly trying to put things in the right places. It immediately instilled trust, and it instilled, and maybe most importantly, we were already speaking the same language.
That's
And
right.
so often acquisitions and mergers and transactions like that fail because you haven't really had those right conversations first. So from a personal perspective, the exit, having EOS in place was really, really important to be able to tell that next owner where things were going. There you go. I could have done that.
Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
There's traction.
That's it.
It
Yeah.
is, to me, one of the 2 books that I recommend every business owner read. And the other one's Culture by Design by David Friedman. And I think if you get those 2 books, you've got the culture and the systems base of the organizational triangle covered. And it'll help your talent attract better talent and retain that good talent. The thing you touched on, and I've seen it, is that when a company operates on EOS, their valuation seems to be higher in the marketplace when they go to sell, because people know that it's a company that is organized and efficiently run.
Exactly.
There are how many companies in the world that run traction? How many companies?
At least 30,000 that are running it with implementers. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's proven and just a great way to run your business.
Yeah. What do you wish more founders knew about building a business that can thrive without them?
Yeah. First, you don't have to do it all yourself, right? Use that business system like EOS to help. I hate to use the word traction over and over again, but that's what it does, right? I mean, putting that system in place helps take the weight off of you.
Yep.
You don't, as a founder, you don't have to know the answer to every question.
Right.
Be vulnerable, lean on your system, and also surround yourself with a really solid support network. I mentioned I had never heard of such a thing as a peer group when I left the corporate world and came. And boy, had I known. I'm just such a huge fan of that. You need to surround yourself with people who are like you and who are facing the same issues, because you're not alone. And so often it feels like you're alone.
Yep. No, that's what executive coaching and peer advisory is all about. Is it's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
We call it isolation relief. How should somebody start with EOS? And I'm kind of leaning towards the free 90-minute EOS meeting consultation with you. What does that look like? Can it be done remotely, since some of our audience is not in North Carolina? Most of them aren't. So what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to sit down with a leadership team. If you're curious about EOS, spend an hour and a half together, and we just go through, what does this look like for you? Take you through the whole system, and then you know what it looks like to implement it in your business. So yeah, it's as easy as that. Schedule an hour and a half, and it can be in person or virtual. In person's always better. And there are other people like me who are implementers around the country. So we're all very grateful to do that work and sit down with you.
And how do they get in touch with you, Brandon?
I'm on LinkedIn, Brandon Blell, Blell. It's a mouthful, a lot of B's and L's. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm at EOS Worldwide /Brandon-Blell. Or you can call me 919-412-6673.
Any final piece of advice or an EOS mantra or quote you would like to leave the audience with?
I would say use a system, right? You don't have to invent it all. Find the system and then stick to it, right? Stick to the process. This isn't something that you just try out, right? You want to commit to a process, lean on the system, and it will work for you if you believe in it.
Dean Smith, legendary coach at North Carolina, would talk a lot about consistency and how you have to, he would say, start how you finish, which is basically be consistent. Think
Mhm.
it through. Don't be the flavor of the month, because that'll be very confusing to your team. And good leaders think through things. And I talk a lot about the Eisenhower matrix lately.
Mhm.
4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is important, not urgent. Quadrant 3 is important, not important, but urgent. And quadrant 4, not important, not urgent. And most of us live in quadrant 1. I know
Yeah.
entrepreneurs do, and we need
Yes.
to go to quadrant 2.
Yes.
Quadrant 2 is where leaders live, and they plan, and planning and implementing things like EOS, and casting your vision and driving your culture. And then it takes you out of quadrant 1
Yeah.
and protects you against burnout, protects your people against burnout. So good leaders live in quadrant 2.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The tyranny of the urgent. You want to get out of that and really focus on those more important things that are going to drive your business forward. And when you drive your business forward, I mean, what space that creates for you as a founder, as an entrepreneur in your life, right?
Amen. Brandon, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Rebound. Thank you so much for your time and continued success in helping business leaders, owners, founders run more productive and efficient companies and lives.
Truly honored. It is truly my pleasure and honor to be here with you. So thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure.
I'm just such a huge fan of that. You need to surround yourself with people who are like you and who are.
Leadership is a learned behavior. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. We all deal with adversity. And when you do, I challenge you to rebound. I challenge you to learn and grow. If you'd like to contact me about executive coaching, workshops, or giving a keynote talk, you can reach me at dohertycoaching.com. That's DOHERTY coaching.com. Thanks for tuning in.